It had been a solid 2.5 weeks since Hitoshi ran into this new farmer. But despite that, he still managed to learn their name from Denki. Now that his memory had been refreshed, so did his need to stay as far away from the farmer as possible. The last thing he needed was for someone to obliterate his already disintegrating dignity and make his life more shitty than it already was. He didn't feel an ounce of doubt when he overheard his mother gush about the good deeds the farmer had performed over the past while. But he did feel the bitter taste of envy coating his tongue. How did this new farmer, after having lived in the valley for not even a month, accomplish so much in a short amount of time? "Hitoshi, could you do a favor for me?" his mother asked as he was preparing a cup of tea. "There's a parcel on the front counter. Do you mind delivering it?" He huffed to himself. "Do I have to?" "Hitoshi?" She gave a stern gaze. "You've practically holed yourself in your room for nearly 3 weeks. The only time you went out was when Mina and Denki took you out for band practice." "I had no say in that. They dragged me out of bed." Still, she nodded her head towards the front door. "I'm sure the farmer would love to get to know my social butterfly of a son." She reached up and squished his cheeks with a motherly coo, and Hitoshi grimaced. He couldn't tell if his mother's remark was meant to poke fun at him, or to recall his younger, naive self, or both. He begrudgingly agreed, mainly as an escape from his mother's incessant doting, trekking down the hall and towards the foyer. He instantly noticed the modestly sized box on the counter, sighing as he placed down the half-empty mug and gently lifting the box. A post-it note was stuck on the surface, and as Hitoshi read the name written, he resisted the urge to roll his eyes. Of course. After he tried so hard the last 2.5 weeks, taking shortcuts, skipping out on hangouts, making stupid excuses to get out of conversations, all these petty attempts, attempted, only for everything to fall short and land on this very moment. Not bothering to announce his departure, he slipped into his shoes and swung open the door, the evening breeze greeting him with a welcoming chill. Crickets chirped quietly as he slowly made his way towards the once abandoned plot of land. This was the first time he had visited this area since the new farmer moved in, and it thoroughly surprised him with just how much the area had changed. Part of the once unruly foliage of trees, shrubs, and stones was flattened and replaced with uniform rows of different crops. The decrepit farmhouse was repaired and glowing with a warm light, with a pleasant smell of coffee emanating from inside. Impressive, if Hitoshi was being honest. So impressive, it was almost irritating. "Hello!" A voice suddenly called from the field. A beaming face was poking out from the rows of green beans, waving at him with overflowing energy. The face he had been avoiding was suddenly before him, dirt smudged on their cheeks and sweat on their brow, but still sporting a smile brighter than the setting sun. "So nice of you to visit, Hitoshi." "It's not like I had much of a choice," he muttered under his breath, fidgeting with the box in his arms. "This was meant for you." With a giddy hop, the farmer took the box with a grateful smile. "Care to come in for some coffee cake?" they asked. "I'd hate for you to come all this way without anything in return." "I can't. Got work to catch up on." That was his excuse when he very well knew he met all his deadlines days ago, and it seemed like the farmer wasn't having any of it either. "Please? Surely you could spare a few minutes with a friend." Friend? Hitoshi almost laughed at the word. What kind of friend would go out of their way to avoid someone upon first meeting them? With a small grin and words of refusal on his tongue, he took in a breath, ready to bid this farmer farewell for good, to leave and never step foot on this farm again, to let them know that he was never interested in getting involved with them, friend or otherwise. But a pair of eyes halted everything. Something golden moved from the corner of his eye. There was a cat. An orange tabby was watching him from the window. The need for an excuse suddenly left him, eyes focused solely on the cat perched on the sill. Its tail flicked in expectancy, pawing at the window as if beckoning him over. "I see you noticed my little friend there. Just adopted him not too long ago," the farmer pointed out, turning back towards the farmhouse with a smile. "Want to say hi?" Hitoshi bit his tongue, obvious hesitation rendering him speechless. He could feel his pride fighting against the sudden wave of kitty love. Was he really going to change his mind because of a cat? No, of course not. Hitoshi Shinsou had enough self-restraint to endure being smitten with a kitten, no matter how much those eyes begged for his attention. So why was he here, sitting in front of the fireplace with a plate of coffee cake in front of him? Why was he holding back a smile as the tabby instantly got comfortable in his lap? Why was he so pathetic? Why was the cat so cute? "I'm glad you two are getting along." The farmer returned from the kitchen with 2 steaming mugs, gently resting them on the table beside the cake. "I'm surprised Miss Midoriya managed to find him. I didn't think there were any stray cats around here." They took a seat on the arm of the couch, happily watching as Hitoshi indulged the tabby with a scratch behind the ears. He almost didn't mind the company when the cat was purring with every pet he gave it. The soft glow of the flames against the cat's fur, combined with the warm tea and comfy atmosphere of the farmhouse, brought a warmth reminiscent of the valley during his youth. Wheat fields, sunsets at the beach, caramel apples in the autumn festival, that buttermilk pie Denki's mom used to make whenever he came over. It reminded him of a time much simpler, where even the mundane was celebrated and recalled with fondness. Whatever happened to that colorful, wonderful world? A sudden beating against the roof caused the cat to huddle closer to him, Hitoshi looking towards the farmer as they walked over to the window. "They didn't say anything about rainfall tonight," they commented. "But I hope this goes on until tomorrow." "Save yourself the time to water crops," he speculated. "Exactly." They rested their arms against the windowsill, their shoulders relaxing as a sigh fell from their lips. Hitoshi watched them, fingers still running against the cat's fur. "Nights here are so different compared to the cities," they said. "It's so quiet. No cars passing by or honking at each other. No music from some dingy club down the street. No drunken fools harassing some poor soul." Their breath fogged the window, the remainder of words going unsaid, falling silent as they seemed to lose themselves in the pitter-pattering of rain. A different feeling of warmth swelled in Hitoshi's chest, a look of confusion creasing his face for a split second. The sight before him seemed all too familiar. Why was that? Trickles of sweat began to accumulate on his brow, despite the cold of the evening seeping in from the crack of the window. The fireplace crackled once more. Their cat mewled in his lap. The mug was warm between his hands. "So what made you want to move to the city?" they asked out of the blue. Hitoshi could hear how much weight the question bore, the atmosphere suddenly heavier than when he first entered. "How'd you know?" "Denki mentioned it." Of course, that blabbermouth, he thought bitterly. A beat passed, Hitoshi taking the time to carefully choose his words. "There's nothing left for me here. The city is opportunity, a place where I can start over." They cut him off, finishing his exact thoughts. "Sounds pleasant, doesn't it? Faraway streetlights, skyscrapers, bustling roads, fancy bars and restaurants. Growing up in a valley town made you realize just how small the world you created for yourself was. So you decided to set your eyes on the city, where you get to meet new people, visit new places, find a place you can call home." That word seemed to echo in Hitoshi's head, causing a rumbling sensation in his heart. "A place where you can be free," they added slowly, "to prove that you're more than what they assumed of you." It was like they knew. It was like they snuck into his head, scrambling through unspoken words and piecing together the very reason why he wanted to get out of this town. A silence quickly washed over the room. questions lingering on Hitoshi's tongue. How exactly did they know? Who told them? No one should have told them. Hitoshi never mentioned this much to anyone, not even Denki or Mina, for fear that they would try and comfort him or, hell, talk him out of it. So how could this farmer, who moved in not even a month ago, know? I better go, Hitoshi said, beginning to stand. It was a lame attempt to dissuade the situation, he knew that, but he had to leave before the farmer read into his life story more than he cared for. Oh, I'm sorry for keeping you. The farmer moved from the window, walking over to pick his barely eaten coffee cake. Hitoshi took the last few sips of his tea before handing off the mug. I hope the rain won't be of any trouble. Hitoshi stole a glance at the farmer. Their sunshine-like countenance had been tempered to a mere grin, one that would be displayed just for the sake of being polite. I'll manage. He waited as the farmer finished cleaning up before bidding him a silent farewell. But before he was able to step out, the farmer's arm was suddenly jutted out towards him. In their hand was a red and white umbrella. Here, I don't want you catching a cold because of me. That polite grin was still displayed in front of him, and he didn't have the heart to argue. He took the umbrella with a final nod of thanks, putting it up as the door behind him closed with a click. But he hesitated. There was a nagging feeling at the very back of his mind. Something was telling him to stay, to turn back and knock on the door. He ignored it, despite the growing weight in the pit of his stomach as he slowly ascended the mountain. The weight remained as he entered his house and trudged down to his room, as he changed his clothes, as he lay in bed, and as he drifted off to a restless sleep.